I want to talk about something that has been on my mind recently because of some experiences that I've been through within the past couple of weeks, and they have been eating me alive. They are actually so minor that whenever I bring it up to people in my life, they're like, are you still thinking about that? And I'm like, not only am I still thinking about it, it's the only thing that I'm thinking about because of the way that I'm built. So what I decided to do was talk to a camera and not even know if anybody's going to listen to this, but at least it's in the void because everybody around me is so sick of hearing me talk about this. And then hopefully I can move on from it because of the person that I am. And I don't understand why I am like this, but because of the person that I am, I'm probably going to get even more riled up and not be able to move on. But here we go. So I don't really know the word for it. It's somewhere simmering between the lines of arrogance and entitlement. I mean it in a situation where people are just rude for no reason. And I'm not saying like you're just not friendly or you're not like trying to be my best friend. I'm talking about situations where like somebody can act this way or speak this way and it literally shocks you. Like it takes you out of the moment and you're like, wait, what? And more so this applies to people that we don't know. I mean like people that aren't in our personal lives, because if you know the person, I think that there are different circumstances, but I'm talking about situations where you don't know a person. So for example, recently traveled overseas and we had an instance with an immigration officer at the airport. The country that we went to, they have like the electric biometric systems where instead of seeing somebody at the immigration counter, you just put your passport into the machine. So there was a bunch of us in that group and there was one immigration officer and he was like staring us down, and I'm used to this because usually immigration officers do this where they like try to intimidate you or like, you know, they're not overly friendly because of their role, which makes sense. But what he was doing was he was like staring us down, and I was like, okay, maybe that's just what they do here. But then what happened was one of the people that we were with, he walks up to her counter or like her little machine, and he was like, go over there, that's it. And then she was like, why? But his reaction to this question is like in the loudest voice, as if he's scolding a child, because I told you to. So we were all taken aback and we're like, okay, that was very rude and that was not within the scope of his job, but okay, fine. When the person that he was scolding gets out of the immigration, like she gets onto the other side of the machine, he lifts his finger up to her, walks up to her, and he goes, when I tell you to do something, don't ask me questions. You just do it. I was fuming at this point. I cannot stand situations like this where like somebody thinks that they have any sort of authority over anybody else as a human being. This is like what's happened. It's been like 2 exchanges of conversation and he is taking it to this level. So he takes her into the back room. What he wanted was for her to go to another machine, basically, because I don't know, something was happening with the machine that she was using. Mind you, I don't think that anything that she said could have warranted this level of anger. I think it was just genuinely an abuse of power. So he takes her to the back and then we don't know what's happening at this point. We're like, oh my God, is she going to be denied entry? What had happened was he went to complain to one of the officers in the back. And then she explained what had happened, and based on what she says, she said that it sounded like this kind of thing happens a lot, like they know his character and that he tends to do this with people. And then in order to kind of extinguish the fire, they asked her to apologize to him. What infuriates me about situations like this is the fact that that immigration officer, above all, is a human and he is dealing with another human. If it was a situation where she was being aggressive first, or if she was actually overstepping the law, overstepping the law, or there was an issue with her visa, something along those lines that is actually within the scope of his role and stepping into why he has been hired to do that position, I could to some extent understand his level of aggression. The fact is that it was uncalled for and unwarranted, and it shows that it comes from his character as a human being. For her, she is like so calm and so chilled out, and she was just like, she moved on within like 2 minutes, but I was fuming the whole night. I was like seeing red, okay? Whenever I see situations like this, I cannot let it go. I fully understand the term seeing red because that is all that I see, and you cannot talk me out of that mood. Like you cannot reason me out of it. There is no amount of logic or explanations that can be given to me to take me out of this mood once I feel that this injustice has been like once I have witnessed this injustice. This kind of thing happens a lot, okay? And as I get older, I realize that there are actually more and more people around the world that are like this, that are just rude without any reason. And whenever I come across situations like this, I get so mad, and I have to think about why I am so mad about it. I mean, when I think about like, if I see it happening to somebody I love, I think that's quite obvious. Like, it's somebody that you love and you know that they're a kind person, they don't deserve it, so you feel like it's not fair. Like you're like, why are you treating somebody that I love like this? So from that perspective, it's pretty easy to understand. But I think what really makes me mad about it is knowing that people that behave like that, like the person that he did it to, so the person that I was traveling with, it's not about her, and she's not the first person that he's done it to. You know, he does that a lot, maybe to people he doesn't know, maybe to people in his personal life who I feel very, very sorry for. Like, that's just normal behavior for him. And the fact that she had to apologize to him in the end, like where his colleagues thought that that was the best way to resolve the situation, shows that he's just a difficult person. He just treats people like that. Like, whether he's an immigration officer, which doesn't discount that, like, which doesn't allow him to behave like that, but regardless of that or not, it's his character. But if you think about it, we're all human. Like, this position as an officer of the law is made up. What's not made up is the fact that you're a human dealing with another human, and we are all here dealing with a human experience. Like, that's what we're all here for on this earth, okay? This abuse of power, this ego, is made up. It's in your mind, but what's not made up is how you're treating somebody else. The fact that you made a conscious decision to make somebody else feel this big because of you. I know logically hurt people, and that like everybody would see him as a small person in that situation. But I think it just makes me angry that people like that exist, and that there are situations that are happening like that to people all around the world every day for no reason. There is no reason for somebody to be acting like that. I think that the world is hard enough. Life is hard enough. The way that the world is built. And I'm talking about like people who, like, we live pretty good lives, okay? We have roof over our head. We have technology. Like, I'm not even talking about how hard life can be for some people in really hard situations. I'm just saying, like, for us who are living well, life is already hard, okay? We have enough shit to deal with on a daily basis without needing people treating us like this, especially when we're trying to just escape the sadness for a little bit on a holiday. Like, there is no reason to do that, and you're doing that as a choice. So, like, the way that the world is built, like capitalism, politics, all of it, we have to deal with that, even if not directly, indirectly. We are all slaves to a system, okay? And that's just the reality of it. We are all just trying to live a simple life, slaving to a system. Fine. Why would you choose to try to overpower someone in some illusion in your mind with your words, or an abuse of power, if you will? Not that he has any, but an abuse of power, a mere civilian just like you, who is just trying to get through their day just like you. Like, you are actively choosing to ruin that person's day, and there is literally no reason for it. And that just makes me really, really sad. I think it's because I'm under this naive belief that people want to be good, or that people are inherently good. And there is like I used to think that there was this universal truth that people want to be kind and that people want to grow. However, people who behave like that, they don't look at situations like that in their life and think, I shouldn't have reacted like that, or, oh, that was a mistake, or what did I do wrong in that situation? It's always, I won. That infuriates me. It really, really does. It also makes me so mad because for me, I can be a bitch, okay? If somebody is being rude to me, okay, this is something that I'm not proud of. Like, I'm speaking as if I am proud of it, but I really am not. And it's something that I really do want to work on. If somebody was like that to me, so if I was in her position at the airport and he was treating me like that, I would give him so much lip back as a reaction and completely react out of rage. Luckily, she's very calm and she didn't, but if I was in that situation, I would have. Or if like somebody's being petty to me, I get so mad at the fact that they're being petty that I be petty back. And logically, that makes no sense because I become what I hate, but I don't know. It's something I need to work on. And it's like so embarrassing because I know like all the success books say, like if you're arguing with a dumb person, for you to continue arguing with them, especially in the way that they're doing it, makes you a dumb person. So I guess I'm a dumb person. But there are people that are so kind and beautiful and soft and sweet who are exactly the type of people that these arrogant, entitled people prey on. Like they can feel them and they just go in with their teeth glaring and blaring. They attack these people who seem more docile. And then it's always the kind people who are like, maybe I gave off the wrong impression for them to act like that. Or maybe they're the ones that are reflecting and taking on the blame when they did nothing wrong. And it should be the other way. And that's what makes me so mad. I also had another instance just a few days ago on an app where I was speaking with somebody who had bought something from online. And the product was not as described. Basically, it was a jumper, and the jumper had arrived with a stain on it, and there was no mention of this stain on the listing, okay? And it was on an app that I've used for years, and if there has ever been a problem with something I've sold on that app or something I've bought from someone, it's always resolved quickly. For the most part, people are pretty nice, or if somebody isn't nice, I wouldn't buy off of them. For example, just the other day, I was asking about this jumper and the girl messaged me and she's like, hey, just before you buy this jumper, I just want you to know that there is a lot of lint on it. Although I've priced it as really cheap, I think that you should still know that before you buy it because, you know, it's fair that you know because it doesn't really come up that clearly in the pictures, which is so freaking nice. And it is so nice and I love it, but it's also courtesy. Like you should be doing that. You know what I mean? So I bought this jumper. It arrived with a stain on it. And I messaged the girl and I was like, hey, there was a stain on it and it wasn't disclosed. Could I get a refund? Because I don't really want it. She proceeds to respond and say, hey, I'm new to this app. I didn't know that I was supposed to emphasize every single little detail that's wrong with the jumper. I don't do refunds. And then she does a little X at the end. And I replied to her and I was pretty mad at her response. It was a little bit condescending, but I was still being fair and I was like, oh, you know, it's just common courtesy. You know, I probably wouldn't have bought it if I knew there was a stain on it. Mind you, I didn't get the jumper for very cheap either. And then I said, I know that you don't do refunds, but I'm not changing my mind. It's not as described. And like at this point, I still think that she's just going to be like, it's going to be quick to resolve because like you're a human. It's not even a nice human thing to do. It's just a fair human thing to do. I said, I'll return the jumper to you and you just give me a refund. Simple. What she says is instead is, I don't understand why a jumper can cause you so much distress. If it means that much to you, then you can return the jumper to me and I will give you half in refund. And I was like, that makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, it sounds so small and so petty, and it's not about the jumper. It's not about the money. It's about the fact that like you're just going around being a bitch for no reason. Like for her, it's worth being a bitch over that amount of money or over one item in life. And I know it seems like I'm exacerbating very small situations, but just like the injustice of it, it infuriates me that people are just that rude. And that exists in the world, where solutions for kindness and solutions to any problem are pretty easy to resolve. For the most part, we all live pretty simple lives, and there is nothing that difficult that can't be solved very easily, very quickly, very kindly. Yeah, that just makes me really, really sad. And I think it's knowing that it's a choice from people that makes me really sad. Like, I can deal with hard things. I can understand difficult situations in life because it's the way the world is set up. It's the way there's a system that's set up. In these situations, it's different in the way I process it because it's like one individual who's choosing to make another individual feel small. Even if it is on a small scale, it's like a choice that they're making. And that goes against a very core belief I have that people are inherently good and want what's good for each other. I don't really know if I'm expressing myself very well. And in some ways, I know that it sounds like I'm throwing a temper tantrum, but really like when I see people who hurt other people or other people who are trying to hurt me, deliberately, you know, if it's a knee-jerk reaction and there is like remorse or an apology after or some sort of growth showing that, even if you don't actively say to me that you're sorry or that you've changed, but I can see it, I can understand. What I don't understand is people who go about their life thinking that that's okay and that they've won in situations where they belittle somebody else. Knowing that that exists in the world, like that kind of person, that kind of heart exists in the world, really makes me feel confused. In the moment, it makes me so filled with rage that it does actually sound like I'm throwing a temper tantrum. Like it does actually sound like I'm a 5-year-old because I am incoherent and what I say doesn't make sense. And I'm being equally as petty back to the person who is making me or somebody within my witness feel that way. But afterwards, it really just makes me sad. There are people in my life who have said to me, like, do you think that your reaction to these kind of situations comes from some deep-rooted trauma in you that you haven't dealt with? And I've honestly, because my reactions are so extreme in these situations, that is something that I have genuinely considered and deeply looked within my soul for, but I haven't come up with anything. I don't actually think that it's a trauma response from me. Speaking of trauma responses, in those situations, people will say to me like, oh, that person's probably just going through something and that's why they acted like that. That is not an excuse. I don't believe. If I'm going through something, it is nobody else's business as mine. So nobody else should be my punching bag for what I'm experiencing in my life. And it's not even because like everybody has their own shit going on, but it's like, in what world is it fair that somebody gets to be my punching bag because of something that I'm going through? Because what I'm going through is subjective. It's just the way that I perceive the world. That's not anybody else's problem. If somebody wants to help me through it, that's a choice that they're making. But to be a punching bag for me going through whatever I'm going through, it's not a choice. It's not my right to do that. And having people in my life is a privilege, so why would I treat them like crap? There are people in life who consistently treat other people like this, and like very compassionate people around me will say like, oh, you know, they went through this and this a few years ago, or they were raised like this. As an adult, I believe what you went through is your responsibility. Like, it is not an excuse anymore. If you were using things that you've been through as an excuse to treat other people like crap, you have to be honest with yourself and say that it's a choice. You know, it's no justification. It can be an explanation, but nowhere does it relieve you of the responsibility to take control of that and be able to use it as an excuse for any sort of behavior. And I think that's what makes me really upset. The entitlement and the arrogance and the fact that it's like, I'm hurting, so everybody else around me has to deal with it. That just doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't, I can't process the thought patterns or emotions of somebody who says that to themselves and thinks it's okay to make other people feel like shit because of that. If there is anything that we have control of in this life, one of the most important things that we have an active decision in every single moment of every single day is to not be a dickhead. And I think it's really as simple as that. It's actually very confronting speaking to like a device like this into a microphone. And I know that a lot of people these days are doing it, but it actually feels really weird. And I don't know if any of my thoughts are coherent or make any sense in this. So I'm going to end it now. And yeah, thank you for listening.